One of the most urgent tasks for our country is to decisively defeat the climate hysteria hoax.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
The ability of CO2 to do the heavy work of creating a climate catastrophe is almost nil at this point.
The price of oil has been artificially elevated to the point of insanity.
That's not how you power a modern industrial system.
The ultimate goal of this renewable energy, plan is to reach the exact same point that we're at now.
You know who's tried that? Germany. 7 straight days of no wind for Germany. Their factories are shutting down.
They really do act like weather didn't happen prior to 1910.
Today is Friday.
You're muted, Jim.
Muted.
Oh my gosh, I had my microphone muted at my introduction.
It's a Godzilla mega gem.
I'm going to hear about it from our people. So anyway, it is Friday, Greta. It is the best day of the week. And not just because the weekend is almost here, but also because this is the day the Heartland Institute broadcasts the Climate Realism Show. This is episode number 205, by the way, if you were scoring from home, and the first one that was ever started on mute. My name is Jim Lakely. I'm your host and the executive vice president of the Heartland Institute. We are an organization that has been around for 42 years, and we are known as the leading global think tank pushing back on climate alarmism. Heartland and this show bring you the data, the science, the truth that counters the climate alarmist narrative you've been fed every single day of your life. There is nothing else quite like the Climate Realism Show streaming anywhere. So I hope you will help us out by bringing friends to view this stream live every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And also like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to leave comments underneath this video. We do read them. And all of these simple actions help convince YouTube's very mysterious algorithm to smile upon this program. And that gets the show in front of even more people. And as a reminder, because big tech and the legacy media are not big fans of the way we cover climate and energy policy on this program, Heartland's YouTube channel has been demonetized. So if you want to help us out, and I really hope you do, please visit heartland.org/TCRS. That's heartland.org/TCRS. And you can join other friends of this program who support it and bring it to the world every single week. And we also want to thank our streaming partners, junkscience.com, CFACT, What's Up With That, the CO2 Coalition, and Heartland UK Europe. Let's get started. We have a very fun show today, and we have with us, as usual, Anthony Watts, Senior Fellow at the Heartland Institute and publisher of the world's most viewed website on climate change, What's Up With That. We have Linnea Lueken, Senior Fellow for Energy and Environment Policy at the Heartland Institute, and Andy Singer, our producers, making sure everything looks and runs smoothly, except for when I hit my mute button behind the scenes. And joining us today again is our regular guest, Lois Perry. She is the director of Heartland UK Europe and is just crushing it for climate realism and against oppressive government policies across the pond. Welcome back, Lois. So fun to see you.
Thank you for having me. A pleasure.
All right. Oh, well, we do have a big show today, so let's just get right to it, and we'll start with the crazy climate news of the week. Hit it, Andy. Thank you very much, Bill Nye. Now, let's get to our first item. Yep, that's what CO2 does. Yes, that's right. It's the Godzilla El Niño. It is coming. Let's talk about this a little bit. We'll queue up a story here from Anthony Watts says, what's up with that? Here comes the super, mega, ultimate, hyper, giga Godzilla El Niño. And this is from our friend and frequent chat participant here on the show, Charles Rotter. I'll read it for you. The headline writers have been busy. At a glance at the climate press for the past month, produces in no particular order. Atmospheric code red, 2026 super El Nino now trending toward record-breaking intensity. That's from Severe Weather Europe. The Godzilla El Nino is coming. This version is something the world has never seen before. How a monster ocean heat wave could fuel a super El Nino. That's from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. Wow. The naming convention for strong El Nino events follows the inflation rules of a poorly managed currency. If we started the El Nino, we started with El Nino, which is the meteorological name. Then came strong El Nino for the bigger ones. Then very strong El Nino. Then super El Nino. Then briefly, Bruce Lee El Nino, quoted by a few outlets in the mid-2020s, which is my now personal favorite. But it was retired quietly for reasons one can imagine. Then in 2015, we arrived at Godzilla El Nino, attributed to a NASA scientist picked up by every outlet on Earth, and it applied to the 2015 and 2016 event. So that's enough setup, I believe, especially with that wonderful clip from Godzilla. Anthony, I want to start with you. I actually think it's just too funny the way these names keep escalating. I mean, what is a Godzilla El Nino, and what would it mean if it rises from the ocean? Should we all be running for our lives? Oh, you're muted now, Anthony.
Sorry. Been coughing a lot. Anyway, the only other word I could think of maybe they could escalate to would be supercalifragilistic extra monster Nino. That's coming next. Just wait. The media is just like a bunch of beagle dogs chasing after a fox. You know, they get this idea and then they run after it. And then, you know, the chase is on. And they come up with these absurd comparisons, you know. I remember like the iceberg the size of New York's Long Island, all these kinds of comparisons they love to make because they think that they're being smart by doing so. And they think that these things will generate extra clicks. Well, you know, I suppose they will. People that find Godzilla interesting will probably click on and read a Godzilla Super El Nino titled article. It's just, it's absurd. And yet this is all based on models. You know, we've got models that say we might have a super El Nino, and then models that say we might not. It's a whole spaghetti model thing. Just, you know, you see all these different outcomes when you look at it. So who knows what we're actually going to get? But I'll be really enjoying it if we end up with just a plain old garden variety El Nino or a fizzled El Nino. And then we can have another show all about how the media turned this into this looming catastrophe that never happened.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, there's always a chance of anything. There's a chance our sun could go supernova tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, Linnea, you're the one who insisted I grab that clip of Godzilla. I hope you enjoyed it. But
I did enjoy it. I was like, that would probably be more universally recognized. But the clip that like came to my mind was from the terrible 1998 movie with Matthew Broderick in it, where the Japanese guy is in a hospital and he's just saying Gojira, Gojira. I love that movie, even though it's terrible. But yeah, I mean, it's just for clicks, as one of our audience members said. Of course, you know, there obviously this is a for fun kind of classification. It's not, you know, they're not going to put it into the actual record as a Godzilla El Nino if they do have quite a severe one this year. So it's all in good fun, I guess. It's fear mongering if people take it that way, but I took it as it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. Do you know what? For me, I'm not going to get into the science of it primarily because compared to you guys, I can't compare. But in terms of from a media and political perspective, this screams of desperation to me. You know, the whole escalation in terms of it was the Godzilla, then it was this, then it was that. It just seems that they're just getting more and more desperate. And the thing is, there's the Shakespeare quote, the lady doth protest too much. And if the lady does continue to protest, it just negates its impact. So yeah, this screams to me, not if there been anything particularly dangerous or anything particularly frightening happening, but actually that we're winning very much, and people on the correct side of the argument are winning.
Yeah. Well, Lois, one thing I wanted to ask you is that El Nino is always a big story for climate and even weather reporting here in the United States. Does anyone in the UK care at all about El Nino? You know, these weather phenomenon in the ocean?
I think, yes, it does get reported on, but obviously it doesn't impact on us in quite the same way in terms of weather events in the UK are, you know, you need to wear a different hat. Or maybe you need to take out a slightly different umbrella, or you don't wear, you know, or you might wear wellies or something like that. Very occasionally does a weather event in the UK mean, it does happen, don't get me wrong, but very occasionally does a weather event in the UK mean we have to flee the city, we have to get into a bunker, we have to do this, we have to do that. So because of that, it of course it doesn't have quite the same impact than it would in the United States. So, you know, you guys have got all sorts of extreme things. You know, I've seen The Wizard of Oz. I know about this stuff.
Yeah, we had a lot of tornadoes come through Illinois just yesterday afternoon, last night. It was pretty crazy.
Stuff like that doesn't happen in Kent and Sussex and Essex.
No, it does not. Anthony, before we leave this subject, I just wanted to ask you, you know, just from a scientific and meteorologist viewpoint, I mean, in general, what does it mean as far as weather trends during an El Nino year as opposed to a normal year or a La Nina?
Well, it means that, you know, we'll see the storm tracks shifted. Typically, that means the storm track shift into California. We end up with more atmospheric rivers. That means more flooding, more landslides, mudslides, that kind of thing. And this has gone on for millennia. This is just a normal occurrence. It means that some parts of the country, the United States, won't see as much precipitation because the storm track has shifted. But it's entirely dependent. It's really, it's really like playing a deck of cards. You don't know what hand you're going to be dealt. El Nino changes things, but you never know exactly how. You never know exactly how much intensity. And so, you know, we might end up with massive damage on the West Coast, massive flooding and landslides and all this stuff, or we may end up with, next to nothing. It's hard to say. It really is. And all we've got right now is these climate models that are predicting the outcome of this El Nino towards the fall and winter of 2026 and 2027. And these models, sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. It's just like, you know, climate models predicting the future out to 2100. You just don't know what you're going to get. And so you can plan for it. You can basically, steel yourself against what's coming. But if it doesn't happen, don't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking forward to the sequel, which is Godzilla El Nino versus Mecha Godzilla La Nina. And then they end up just stomping all over all the bad climate models. The end. It'll be a lot of fun.
I actually wouldn't put it past Hollywood to come up with a plot where Godzilla and some creature that's born out of the sea due to some leftover radioactive barrels and El Nino combining together to make some super monster in the Pacific, you know, and Godzilla goes to attack that. In the process, all the West Coast cities get destroyed because of just having a stomp fest.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I
Pretty
think that's
much.
a lot to Pacific Rim, but I don't know. It's not.
Cool. All right, let's move on to our second item after having that fun and pretty informative discussion. Power plant deregulation might be in the future here, at least in the United States. This comes to us from the Washington Reporter. Energy industry experts want the Trump administration to fully repeal the Obama-era EPA mandates that target coal. I'll read a bit from here. President Donald Trump and his administration are receiving backup from a coalition of energy policy experts who want the Trump administration to finish what it started and finalize the Environmental Protection Agency's rescission of all greenhouse gas emission standards for coal power plants. The EPA already proposed such a rescission in June 2025, but it has never been finalized. Quote, although the current global energy crisis is likely to be transient, our domestic energy needs for data centers and reindustrialization are rapidly growing, the signatories wrote to Trump and to others in his administration. Quote, they underscored the further need for America to be able to utilize its own natural resources, especially coal. We shouldn't be burning as much coal as possible. We should be burning as much coal as possible for electricity generation so we can export as much natural gas to countries that will pay more for it than U.S. utilities will for electricity generation. Coal came to America's rescue in response to the 1970s energy crisis. It can do so again. Trump already rescinded Obama's EPA endangerment funding for emissions of greenhouse gases from vehicles. And because that rule served as the scientific basis for regulating coal plants, the energy experts see an opening to finish the job. Quote, the current global energy crisis spotlights the need for the U.S. to redevelop its awesome coal resource that was all but destroyed by the Obama and Biden administration, said Steve Malloy, a former Trump EPA transition team member, also a board member of the Heartland Institute. Quote, because the political future is uncertain, President Trump needs to expedite the termination of the overregulation of the coal industry. We must lock in much needed regulatory changes now so that future politicians cannot easily or senselessly deny our country the tens of trillions of dollars of value that can be produced by coal-fired electricity. I was hoping actually to have Steve Malloy, our good friend, on the show today to talk about this. He's actually doing a couple of the radio hits while we're streaming live today. And as I mentioned, the Heartland Institute is our president, James Taylor, is a signatory to this letter to the Trump administration, along with a lot of our friends who have organizations in the climate realism movement. Linnea, I will start with you then as a default. Pardon, you might not have been prepared for this, but we could talk about it all together. I mean, I've always wondered why this wasn't done all at once, earlier and all at once. And if the endangerment finding should not apply to greenhouse gas emissions from vehicles, why should it apply to anything else, including coal-fired power plants?
Yeah, that is something I've been puzzled about too. I think a lot of people assumed when the initial vehicles one was put out that it was covering, that the endangerment finding rescission was covering power plants as well. It's kind of silly that it's not. I imagine that, Trump has already signaled that and, started moving on getting more coal turned back on. And so I think that this is going to work out, but I don't know. Like you said, I wasn't super prepared for this particular topic. However, it makes sense though. And actually you're starting to see commentary positive about coal in like conservative circles again, which is, in our area, it's not unusual to see that kind of commentary. But for a long time, the kind of mainstream conservative conversation was like, well, we've already given up on coal. Everyone thinks that coal is dirty, so we're just going to go along with it and then talk about it as if it is. And we're going to do nothing but talk about gas and nuclear. Well, coal isn't dirty like it was even 20, 50 years, especially 50 years ago. So it should be part of the energy mix. And it actually does have benefits over things like natural gas or, biofuels or whatever, in part because you can just leave a heap of coal outside of the plant for like emergency purposes, or outside of a peaker plant or an emergency plant that's specifically for that purpose, where you leave it offline and then you can turn it online, and you can leave a heap of coal outside getting rained on and stuff. You don't even need to put it into special storage, and it'll maintain its energy content and it won't be ruined. You can't do that with other resources. So it has benefits. It's not going away, and it shouldn't go away. It was a huge mistake from the very beginning to try and phase it out. It's going to make a comeback, but I wouldn't expect to see very much advertising about it or shouting from the rooftops about it, just because the public has a false perception that because it's like black or brown and sooty, that it means that it's a pollutant, a major pollutant when it's burned. And with modern technology, it's just not. So I wouldn't worry about it all that much.
Lois, in my mind, the global industrial revolution began in your home country, and it was fueled by coal. You guys built the modern world with coal. What is the status of coal use in the UK these days, both its public perception and its use in your grid?
Well, I think that the work that we've done as an organisation has helped enormously in terms of demonising, if you like, the whole coal thing. But yeah, you're right that I would argue that not just the United Kingdom, but the entire empire was built on coal, and indeed the Industrial Revolution. So the whole concept of it being a terrible thing, a horrible thing, all of that stuff is an anathema, certainly to me. But like Linnea was just saying, I do believe that perceptions are changing, and where they're not changing enough, things will happen in the background and they might just not massively publicize it. Coal is an extraordinary resource. We are using it. We will use it. Whether we make a big song and dance out of it is another kettle of fish. But the whole concept of clean coal, the whole concept of using coal in a way which is not dirty in inverted commas, but actually is clean and modern. Look, it's happening. It's already happening. And as Linnea very, very pointedly marked out, it may not be being shouted from the rooftops, but it is happening. I think the whole perception for English people of homegrown energy, whether that's gas, coal, North Sea oil, all of that is changing exponentially, because we want to have energy independence, and we want to be paying what you guys are, which is 8 times less for our energy than you are. So yeah.
Well, we're still paying too much for it, if you ask me.
Oh my God! Oh, you don't know how lucky you are. You have no idea. You have no idea. Yeah. Try the most expensive in the Western world. Try the most expensive, not just domestic, but industrial energy as well. I don't even know how we're still here. I really don't.
The leaders of the UK have been badly infected with climate derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, saying that we still, that you have it bad, it's like arguing over, who's injured worse. Yeah. Like the Black Knight in Monty Python. It's like, okay, you've lost all of your limbs. The United States, we've only lost our 2 arms.
Yeah.
It sucks that we have high energy prices. They're artificially high, as Anthony Watts even mentions in our intro video for the show every week, that energy prices are artificially inflated by bad policy.
Jim, it's just a flesh wound.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see. We're going to keep an eye on that. I've been told in discussions with friends that an announcement for that, for the end of the endangerment funding for coal plants, and I would imagine it should or would apply to all electricity energy sources, could be coming any day now. And maybe it's good, as you said, Linnea, that it's kind of under the radar. There's people not just, rioting in the streets over what's a common sense application of science.
Well, if they did rescind endangerment for power plants, I think they would freak out. I think you'll see it you'll see it in Mother Jones. You'll see it in Huffington Post, probably, maybe the New York Times or Washington Compost or something. But yeah, they'll certainly be very upset if it does turn over. And just expect a lot of articles with pictures of steam coming out of cooling towers on them in the future here. I hope it happens. They will freak out if it does, but yeah, it's good that they're not like signaling it too strong ahead of time if they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cry harder then, I guess. As former President Obama once said, elections have consequences, and too bad. All right, let's move on to our next item. I titled this Flights of Fancy. This comes from The Guardian in Lois
Oh
Perry's
no.
UK. I know. We can't quit them, Lois, but you'll like this story. I guarantee it.
No, you know that they're known in the UK. Well, they used to be known as before they could use computers to do spell checks. They were known as the Grawniad because their spelling was so bad. The Grawniad.
That is funny. All right. Well, you're going to like the story, Lois, like I guarantee you. So the headline here is airline industry chiefs say 2050 net zero goal now unlikely.
Good.
I'll read a bit from it. Yeah. The aviation industry's landmark pledges to be net zero by 2050 will probably not now be achieved, airline leaders have admitted. The collective goal to eliminate net carbon emissions was declared by global airlines only 5 years ago in 2021, with similar pledges made by national aviation industry leaders and governments, including the UK, in 2020. However, Willie Walsh, the Director General of global airlines body IATA, said, quote, hope was fading fast and a new, quote, realistic timeline should be established. Walsh, who was the chief executive of British Airways owner IAG until September 2020, said fuel suppliers, governments, and aircraft manufacturers were largely to blame for the failure to hit the target. More than half the planned decarbonization of aviation was dependent on the development of sustainable aviation fuels, with much of the rest reliant on a global emissions trading program. CORSIA, established under the aegis of the United Nations and its aviation body, ICAO. In a speech to delegates at the annual IATA summit in Rio de Janeiro, Walsh said that CORSIA was being, quote, undermined by government inaction, while annual production of the SAF would reach only 2.4 million tons, or 0.8% of airline fuel needs this year. The goal is 65%, or 500 million tons by 2050, and the gap is wide and not closing fast enough, he said. Quote, there is still hope for 2050, but that is fading fast. We need an urgent dialogue to determine a realistic timeline given the current state of affairs, unquote. I can offer these guys a realistic timeline. Never. That's a realistic timeline. Lois, you are our net zero expert. You've been fighting net zero since before it was cool. And here is more proof that we and reality is winning.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because if you actually analyze what he's saying is the scam, our money laundering scam didn't work properly. That is what I distill from that. You know, that basically this was supposed to happen, these offsets were supposed to happen, that was supposed to happen, there were supposed to be subsidies here and subsidies there. And unfortunately, we didn't manage to rip everybody off in terms of it didn't work collegiately enough. So sadly, we haven't reached the target because they're not going to be flying less. We're not going to be using less energy. I know I'm teaching you guys to suck eggs here. You know, I don't need to teach you guys anything, but it's an admission that their massive, huge money laundering climate scam on this particular occasion hasn't worked. And so we're going to blame governments, we're going to blame schemes, we're going to blame this, we're going to blame that. But at the end of the day, they know it's a load of nonsense, and yet still they continue. I find it quite funny, actually, that they're one of the big Just Stop Oil donors was the owner of a couple of the massive airports in the United Kingdom. So it's a joke. The whole thing's a joke. But the brilliant thing is they were all sitting there in their beautiful billion-pound mansions, laughing their heads off at us, stroking their white cats and making their big decisions, right? And now they've been sussed. They've been sussed. So good for us. That's all I can say. Good for us.
Yes, and good for you, especially. I mean,
well, good
Linnea?
for you guys. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Linnea, you look like you want to get in here.
Yeah, I'm going to channel Sterling for a second here and say, I'm sorry. We were told for years that sustainable aviation fuel and all of these green alternatives were cheaper than traditional fuels. and had reached industrial production, and so we didn't have to worry about it anymore. And it was just the subsidizing of fossil fuels that was keeping them cheap and competitive and blah blah blah. Well, they're definitely not cheap right now. So how is it that now that oil is at some of the highest prices it's been in a long time, how is it now that these sustainable aviation fuels can't keep up? Oh, it's because they're not getting the subsidies that they were getting before. It's it's from the United States, because it's not like the UK and other European governments have stopped giving subsidies to those types of programs, right? Or have stopped funding them. So the United States cuts our funding to these different climate groups, cuts funding to USAID, cuts funding to all sorts of NGOs that do, cute green projects. And now those fuels are not affordable and the airlines can't go net zero. Sorry, I thought it was inevitable, like some kind of economic trend that was a natural transition that was going to happen. Obviously not. If they were all that good, they'd be killing it right now with how expensive oil is. But they're not. They were a scam the whole time. And like Lois said, It was just like money laundering, obviously. That's my rant.
Very good.
Yeah, it's been the same story for everything sustainable. It's only sustainable as long as the government money holds out. Beyond that,
exactly.
not sustainable at all.
Among the British people, Lois Perry, what's more popular, Prince Harry or net zero?
The thing is, Prince Harry, we because we have such an extraordinary innate system of belief with monarchy, we believe that he's been led astray by a naughty American divorcee. That's happened before. And if he renounces her, we'll let him back and we'll tell him he's been a naughty boy, and everything will be fine. So on that basis, net zero is more unpopular.
All right.
It's you and your American temptresses. Stop sending them over, because our boys can't handle it. They're just used to sort of, quite straight-laced girls.
I did not bring her up. We do not speak her name on this podcast. Her name will not be spoken, but y'all know who we're talking about. All right.
We all know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, God bless you. All right. Let's move on to another one. This is kind of fun. We had tornadoes coming through my neck of the woods just yesterday, and it'll happen all summer. It's called summer. But how about some helpful fire tornadoes? This sounds exciting. This comes from Science Daily. Giant fire tornadoes could clean up oil spills faster with less pollution. What if one of the best ways to fight an oil spill is with a controlled fire tornado? Wow, what could go wrong? All right, let me read some here for you. When a major oil spill occurs at sea, emergency crews often face a difficult choice. They can allow the oil to spread across the water, threatening coastlines and marine life, or they can set it on fire, which sounds fun. Burning the oil, a technique known as a situ burn, can prevent the slick from expanding. However, it also produces thick clouds of black smoke, releases soot into the atmosphere, and leaves behind a layer of unburned residue floating on the ocean's surface. Now, researchers have demonstrated a striking new approach that could make this process far more effective. It's a first-of-its-kind large-scale study. In a first-of-its-kind large-scale study, scientists created giant fire whirls, spinning columns of flame that resemble fire tornadoes, and found they burn oil faster and more cleanly than conventional methods. The rotating vortex draws in large amounts of oxygen, creating a hotter and more efficient flame. As a result, the fire whirl consumed oil more rapidly while producing significantly less pollution. The study, supported by the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, was led by Dr. Elaine Oren and Dr. Qincheng Wang of Texas A&M University and Dr. Michael Gallner of the University of California, Berkeley. Quote, "This is the first time anyone has conceived using fire whirls for oil spill remediation, and it's really just the beginning. Quote, our goal is to harness the chaotic nature of fire whirls as a powerful, precise restoration tool to protect coastlines, marine ecosystems, and the environment as a whole, unquote. All right, Linnea, I must start with you. You worked on oil rigs in the Gulf of America before, wrongly named, but in the Gulf of America. What do you think of this idea? What could possibly go wrong? And would it even be fun?
I mean, if it works, then pretty much nothing would go wrong. It's not like the tornado is going to like get out of control and flame its way across the top of the ocean or something. Like it's in the ocean. The air humidity is too high to keep up any kind of like fire tornado. My skepticism comes in that they're going to be able to like maintain, like create one in the first place at a scale that would matter for a big oil spill. But I don't have a problem with this idea. I think it's a fine idea. If it works, great. I don't think it will in actual practical applications, but it's a cool idea. And you know, if it works and it also looks really cool, that's like double good, right? But this is not new. I implore all of our audience to go watch a wonderful John Wayne movie called Hellfighters, which talks about what's called well control, which is when, you know, you get a big, you lose your wellhead or you get a serious leak or something from the wellhead and it's spraying gas or it's spraying oil all over the place. The way that they controlled those back in the 1960s was by catching them on fire on purpose. Because what you don't want to happen is to have this huge buildup of gas that all of a sudden randomly ignites out of control and explodes. So what they do is they light it on fire on purpose to burn it off. Wastes a lot of oil, but what else are you going to do? It's not like you can catch it. Yes, that's right. Robin over on X, Reddit, correct. His company was one of the pioneers of that stuff. So it is... not unusual at all to burn off oil spills or, you know, wells being out of control. A fire tornado, I can see how it would work in isolation, because definitely if you can get more air moving to it, you can definitely create a hotter flame. So I think it actually would work because the hotter flame is going to burn off a lot of the chemicals better. I'm just really skeptical that they're going to be able to produce one. I'm not sure how they would do it. Maybe Anthony could have a better idea of how you could produce a small scale twister, but.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, when I was at Purdue University, I worked on a project called the Tornado Simulator. It actually was a room-sized device, actually 2 floors. It had a floor above and a floor below, a giant room, about a 25, 30 by 30 room. And we had this giant device in the center with a rotating cage of screen and a blower up in the attic up above it to pull air in. And we induced angular momentum into that air by this rotating screen around it. And, you know, it was a huge endeavor to get this thing to work and work correctly. But it was a fantastic invention, and it did make, in several peer-reviewed studies, it also made that series that Leonard Nimoy hosted back in the 70s, you know, where he's talking about different science things and so forth. And I got to play a Godzilla, by the way. I had to make a miniature city out of styrofoam. Then we turned the machine on and had the tornado destroy it. Anyway, so point is that making such a device in a static environment, there it is. There it is. Way to go, Andy. Yes. Gosh, that takes me back. Anyhow, making tornadoes was a huge undertaking. Now, can you imagine trying to do this at sea? You know, you got waves going on, you got wind, all this stuff. This idea is not just implausible, it's crackpot, batshit crazy. I'm sorry, that's the only way to describe it. It's not possible to do. And this is an example of where scientists get together and think up things, but they have no idea how to build it, because, you know, it would take some extraordinary, if not impossible, engineering to get something like this to work. And then maybe if we even got it to work, would it work very long? Probably not. The sea is the harsh mistress. Storm comes along, boom, that thing's all shattered.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have to wait, for particular weather conditions in order to even get it to work. Because even on a good day, the chop and everything of the waves, and like I said before about the like air humidity, but I'm sure they've thought about all this stuff, hopefully. Nowadays, although maybe I shouldn't say I'm sure, nowadays it's a little bit questionable as to whether or not some of the papers that get published really thought out all the mitigating factors. A lot of times they'll just have kind of a throwaway line in the abstract that says, of course, in the actual in situ, it'd be more complicated and there are mitigating factors and blah, blah, blah. But in these conditions, this is how it would work, which is fine. But, it doesn't mean that tomorrow we're going to start using this. Again, I do want to emphasize that to a lot of people when it comes to these kinds of studies and even patent technology and stuff. Just because they can do it in a lab or just because they can put a patent on a technology doesn't mean that it actually works outside of the lab, or doesn't mean that it actually works in real life to any kind of scale that would matter. So we just have to be careful about going kind of crazy with a lot of this stuff. It's kind of like a couple of years ago when they were talking about fusion, and they achieved some short-term fusion that was impressive, like good work. But people were talking about it as if tomorrow we were going to have fusion power plants coming online. It's just not real yet. The technology doesn't exist at scale.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody could build this, if you give this assignment to Elon Musk, I bet he'd figure it out.
Yeah. If anyone, he could.
Cool. All right. Let's move on. Our last little item here in the crazy climate news is something I came across this week. It seems that Dems are giving up on their energy agenda. This comes from no less an authoritative source than the New York Times, which loves to peddle Democrat talking points at all times. So that's why it's important. Headline: Democrats once vowed to stop oil and gas. Now they're not so sure. As the midterm elections approach, many leading Democrats are rethinking their approach to climate change. I thought it was an existential threat that we had to stop, or else we're all going to die. I guess there's a little more wiggle room here than we imagined. Well, anyway, let me read from it here for us all. Democrats and environmentalists are shifting their approach to climate change as the economic fallout from the war in the Middle East has reshuffled the politics of energy. With voters worried about spiking gas prices and inflation, some of the party's leaders argue that they should stop trying to throttle oil and gas. It's a rejection of the approach taken during the Biden administration, which treated climate change as an existential threat and tried to stop new drilling and pipelines. The most recent example came in California, where Tom Steyer, a champion of fighting global warming, was edged out of this month's gubernatorial primary by Javier Becerra. Mr. Becerra, a moderate Democrat, no, not really, but anyway, New York Times calls him a moderate Democrat. Becerra questioned the state's most stringent climate goals, like ending sales of new gasoline-powered cars by 2035, and received donations from oil and gas companies. Holy moly. Across the Northeast, Democratic governors have started to consider gas pipeline expansions, once unthinkable in the most climate-conscious states in the country. Even climate hawks in Congress have shifted their tactics. Lawmakers said in recent interviews, the result could be a less ambitious climate agenda if the party returns to power in Washington. We'll see. Many Democrats argue that the path back to power means abandoning some of their most aggressive stances on climate change. When they do promote renewable energy, they frame it as a way to lower electric bills and avoid the gas pump, not because of the effects on the planet. That's enough from that story. Anthony, can I start with you? I mean, we've been hearing this our whole lives that we have to save the planet. There's no more time. How many groups are called? The title of the very groups are about how we're all going to die and don't have any more time. Apparently, we have more time because the Democrats are not all that urgent about it.
Well, we told you so. That's all I can say about it, really. I mean, the idea that we would just destroy our economy and go back to the Stone Age just to save the planet is absurd. And it's absurd on so many levels. And we knew this was eventually going to come home to roost. I mean, at some point, sensibility had to kick in, even with the craziest things that they've said, about oil and gas. They finally come to the realization that, my gosh, if we get rid of all the oil and gas, things go to hell. And they do. And so now they're like, well, gosh, what else are we going to do here? Earlier we were talking about renewables and so forth, and how they've switched their tune. And now we're talking about doing more coal and so forth. I think we should come up with a nuclear coal plant concept, where we combine nuclear and coal together. That will get them going. Oh, they will come out against that, even though it's completely insane and impossible. But it's a red herring we can give them to go chase after,
Yeah, Lois, I want to throw it to you, because the point of this story is that the Democrats, the left here in the United States, even if they haven't given up entirely in their heads what their agenda is, they're not talking about it like that anymore. In fact, they're trying to talk about it as little as possible. You guys still have Ed Miliband out there, and the rest of your left, all I see from them is like they haven't given up the rhetoric, even though it's very unpopular. They keep going full speed ahead.
Well, yes and no, because I mean, it's now, you could argue that the left in this country are the Conservative Party, and the proper right are the Reform Party. So yeah, okay, like I get what you're saying, but they know for a fact that these particular policies are not popular. And I mean, even Ed Miliband, they call him Red Ed, yeah. Even Ed Miliband, the energy secretary, said recently that we needed to start drilling again in the North Sea. So yes, you're right. The left, in some ways, have doubled down, but they've doubled down on the basis that they must know, they must have prepared for it, that they are not going to be in power. They are not going to be in power within 11, I'd say 10, 11 months. And all of the other parties, apart from the Greens, whether that's the Reform Party, the Conservative Party, even the nut job right, the Restore lot, yeah, are all anti-net zero. So yeah, you're right. The left is still carrying on, but I don't know. Something's shifted, Jim. Something has definitely shifted in the narrative to do with net zero over here. I really believe that.
That's good. Yeah, we say it all the time on this show. Reality is undefeated, and that includes political reality as well as scientific reality. And yeah. Well, somebody in the chat here, Lois, congratulated you on such a nice champagne flute. So there it is, right there.
It's a cheap one. This isn't even crystal. This is glass. Yeah.
That's so very nice. I'm glad you're enjoying stuff. It is the evening. It is definitely it's not just 5 o'clock somewhere. It's also 6 o'clock somewhere, and that would be in the UK. All right.
Nearly.
Let's.
Are they making a comment about me drinking? Yeah. Tell them that we're in England. We are all highly functioning alcoholics, and I'm an extremely bad girl. But I'm very good at what I do for what I do for Heartland. So yeah.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Very good. Yes. No, you just look so elegant, and
I gotta go get some
with the
whiskey
glasses,
now.
just perfect. Great, good show.
Thank you. No, I'm chilling out. It's been a full-on week. I'm sure you know why, Jim.
It's Friday. I'll have one in my hand in
okay.
2 hours. No worries. All right. Before we get to Q&A, there's something we haven't done this in a while, and it's the meme of the week. And this is a blast from the past. Andy, could you show that, please? Oh, hard to see that really good. But yeah, there we go. That's the cover of Rolling Stone magazine in April of 2020 with a very nice, before AI, very nice stylized picture of Greta Thunberg on there. The headline is Now or Never, the race to save the planet. A whole special issue on this topic. And I guess the answer is never.
How dare you?
Sorry, Greta. The answer is never. God, gosh darn, the amount of free publicity and propaganda for the climate alarmism side, that's kind of why I wanted to pick this. Subconsciously, I wanted to pick that just to talk about that. This show lately, especially for the last year, has gone on, a few victory laps, for lack of a better way to describe it. And the reason I feel that way, and I'm sure it's shared by everyone on this podcast today, is it's because the odds were against climate realism from literally every corner of our popular culture, scientific culture, academic culture, everywhere.
Yeah.
And we are now winning.
Yep. Truth eventually always wins.
Can I just make a very minor point, just based on what you just said before, Jem? It is actually nearly 7 o'clock in London.
You're right.
I just wanted to put that out there. Okay.
All right. Well, if the bottle's nearby, go ahead, pour out another one. We got another 30 minutes to go. Whatever it takes to get through the show, Lois, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Your drinking is highly justified at this hour in London.
Thank you so much. I knew there was a reason why we got on so well. Thank you.
Yes. Well, after work, it's the happy hour. It's maybe the golden hour, which reminds me of the sponsor of this program, and that is.
Oh my God, that was very good, Jim. That was very good.
Advisor Metals. Thank you very much. If you listen to a lot of conservative shows and this show right here, you hear tons of pitches for buying gold, silver, and other precious metals. And there are a ton of companies out there that want your business. But I want to tell you why you should trust the sponsor of this program. And that's Advisor Metals. And it's because of the man who runs the company. And his name is Ira Bershatsky. Ira is the managing member of Advisor Metals, and he doesn't employ high pressure tactics or deceptive marketing ploys like so many in big gold. He will also not give you free champagne. And he will also not give you rare coins either, because a lot of people don't want that. When you buy gold and other precious metals from Advisor Metals, you're going to be dealing in quality bullion. And that is so much better when it comes time to liquidate that very valuable physical asset. And when you buy from Advisor Metals, you're going to have that investment sent discreetly to your home. Also a reminder, Ira is advertising on this program because he is a patriot. He does not donate to Democrats or other leftist causes. He refuses to work with proxies of the Chinese Communist Party, and he, like us, abhor the machinations and schemes of organizations like the World Economic Forum. We are so proud to have Ira and Advisor Metals as a sponsor. So if you want to diversify your investment portfolio, if you want to back up your IRA with real physical bullion of precious metals, go right now or right after the show to climaterealismshow.com/metals. You can leave your information there and Ira will make the process so easy for you. Again, that's climaterealismshow.com/metals. And be sure to tell them who sent you, because that helps us while you're helping your financial future. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter. I will raise my coffee mug instead of that right there. And we will, as a toast, head right into Q&A. Take it away, Linnea.
Okie dokie. Yeah. So first, this is very concerning to me. We have a threat from one of our viewers, Gerard here, who says, Jim, we still have Ed Miliband in the UK. We can arrange for him to be sent over to you if you like. Oh, that's okay. You can keep him.
Yeah.
That's a threat.
Yeah. Don't worry too much about that. And they won't be in government shortly.
All right. Question from Albert, who says, does output from the sun have any role in the swings of the El Niño Southern Oscillation or La Nina? Anthony?
Well, I'll answer with my standard scientific answer. Yes, no, and maybe. It's unresolved. It might have an effect. It might not. Sunspots, of course, have nothing to do with it, but total solar irradiance, TSI, has been increasing slightly over the past few decades, partly due to two reasons. Number one, the sun's output has increased just a little bit, but also because we have reduced pollution and aerosols in the atmosphere. We're getting more sunlight reaching the surface, which includes the surface of the ocean. So it may have some role. We just don't know.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So Mike says, even if it's a very strong El Nino, would anyone have noticed if someone hadn't pointed it out?
The Mexican fishermen along the Pacific coast would have noticed, because they're the ones that coined the term El Nino, the boy, which was basically saying this thing comes around Christmas, and they named it after the Christ child. And so, yes, they noticed it. But beyond that, if we didn't have satellites and, ships and things doing measurements, beyond that, it wouldn't really be noticeable. Yes, we're getting more storms this year. That's about it.
Tech asks, has Lois ever seen a tornado live or just on television?
No, I haven't. I don't think Universal Studios Twister experience counts, does it? No, I haven't. Is he invited me to? The answer is yes. Yeah, I'll come. Yeah, I'd love to. Invite me and I'll come.
We'll go storm chasing.
I will. I'd be well up for that. Yeah.
All right. Frequent viewer Guffpot says, wasn't the Nazi invasion of Russia thwarted by bad weather that was attributed to El Nino? Heard something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was something like, there's a lot of stories of, different extreme weather events popping up on historical events. But I don't know about El Nino.
I don't think El Nino was involved. We had a terrible winter. They had a lot of flooding in the spring. They were bogged down in mud and cold weather and so forth. It's the same thing that got Napoleon, a few hundred years previously. Napoleon tried to attack Russia and the weather got him. But that area is highly removed from El Nino effects. It's more likely a change in the polar vortex that made it deep that particular year.
Awesome. All right. Miles Schumacher says, given the mean sea surface temperature of the planet is about 1 degree Celsius higher than it was a few decades ago, does that mean that a Nino index of +3C is really more like a +2C?
Well, that sounds like new math to me. It's all relative. You really don't know what it was a few decades ago because the measurement systems back then were iffy. And so there's been lots of estimates. But I will point out that it's been higher than this in the past. There have been some proxy reconstructions of El Nino events based on different kind of diatoms and things of that nature that grow better in warmer waters or colder waters or whatever. And so it's been worse in the past, and I'm not particularly concerned about whether it's 2 degrees or 3 degrees. Although the difference between 2 and 3 might be the difference between a junior Godzilla and a full adult grown Godzilla.
Thank you. That's very scientific. All right. Chris says, is it quicker to build coal-fired generation than gas turbines? I've heard there's a long lead time for gas turbines. It depends on what kind of coal. I think traditional coal-fired generation with just like scrubbers and stuff on it, probably yes, faster than a new gas turbine. The new high-temperature coal turbines that they have, I don't know. I think those might be about similar. But the thing is, we have all these coal plants just like sitting around right now. And so the speed of turning them back on or converting them to gas or something, or even you can convert coal plants to nuclear too. Some of them, some types of coal plants can be converted to nuclear. You can kind of not multi-purpose at the same time, but you can change what they're running on faster than you can, get all the permitting and stuff to build a whole new plant. So, all right. Let's go. Ian, who says, to what extent do you think the recent relaxing of climate alarmism is due to the realization that gargantuan AI or data centers need so much reliable power? Weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I completely agree with her. And actually, I don't like to do this very often, but I was away. I went away for a few days, and I was in Spain, and so the only news channels that were available were very woke. They were wokey UK news channels, and they were wokey American ones. And I started noticing a little bit of a narrative being pushed out. Every single news story was not about the amount of energy in terms of fossil fuels that were being required for these data centers, etc. Every single news story was about how much water they were going to use. And I thought, now this is clever. This is very, very clever, because and when I chatted to my little girl about it, he's 15, he said, yes, every time I do a search, it uses X amount of water. And I thought, right, so they're pushing these narratives out to the kids as well. So,
Yeah, well, I want to point out something about water use.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is closed systems water. You know, it's not like they're consuming water. The water doesn't get used or go up into the atmosphere or anything like that. It's recirculated cooling. And so, you know, let's say you run a 100,000 gallon recirculatory system, and it recirculates, you know, once a minute. It gives these huge numbers that aren't necessarily anything about consumption. It's just flow. And
that's
so
interesting you said that, because I'll just say this and then I'll give way, as they say in Parliament. But my analysis of it was completely, without having the knowledge that you've got, was completely that this was a distraction, that they were deliberately making us focus on water usage because they didn't want us talking about the amount of energy required, because obviously that is in direct contradiction to the net zero narrative. So yeah.
I mean, all kinds of different industrial situations use water for cooling. A lot of it is closed system or recycled water. Some of it is just in and out, like coal plants on the Ohio River, for example. They bring in river water, they filter it, they use it for cooling, they send it to a cooling pond or a cooling tower, and then they send it back out into the river. It doesn't really get consumed, it just gets borrowed for a period of time. And
so, it is a distraction. It is a distraction. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, I think that the majority, other than just all the money getting ripped out from under them from the United States, I think the majority of the relaxing of the climate alarmism is because of the data center issue. Again, it has to do with money. And I think I said this a couple of months ago when this first started appearing as a major trend. How frustrating must it be right now to be a true believer who has spent decades, like, Seth Borenstein over at AP or something, someone who really believes that climate change is like growing into a life-ending catastrophe, and to have every single major organization that used to be promoting it all of a sudden drop it in favor of building up energy resources. Like, none of them believed it. But there are true believers of this scam, and their brains are completely and utterly broken by it. And they're terrified every single day, and they're teaching their kids to be terrified if they even have kids. And they've been doing all of this for nothing. Man, it would really suck to be those guys. I'm glad I'm not them. All right.
Yeah, I have a comment regarding that whole period of time people have been spending on this topic. Neener.
I'm glad you're so sympathetic, Anthony. All right, let's see. I'm gonna try and find one for Lois here. Oh, this is good. From Mr. Johansson, who says, Lois, when is Starmer resigning?
Oh God, I don't want him to resign. I want him to stay in power as long as possible, because whilst Keir Starmer is Prime Minister, we've got a chance of getting rid of this Labour government. But unfortunately, what could happen, I hope it doesn't, but if so there's a by-election coming up in Manchester, and the only reason that this by-election has even happened is because a guy who is called Andy Burnham, who's previously been an MP, who's previously been a minister actually, and is currently the mayor of Manchester, has decided, or the powers that behind him have decided, that they want him to be the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So some sad schmuck, as they say in North London, has been encouraged to stand down, and so there's a by-election. Obviously, this guy's been promised, I don't know, some sort of cabinet position or something in the future. Anyway, so Andy Burnham is the Labour candidate for MP for Macclesfield. Now, the only competition for him is the Reform Party and a very good friend of mine, Nigel Farage, who is the leader of the Reform Party. So what has happened, I believe, is at the behest of the Conservative Party, a new extreme right organisation has appeared, headed by a guy called Rupert Lowe. Now, their only goal is to split the vote, right? So the only point of Restore and Rupert Lowe is for the status quo to continue. So what we call in the United Kingdom the Uni Party, Conservatives and Labour. And it looks like, there is a chance it might work. It really is, because unfortunately, this super duper duper extreme rhetoric on the extreme right of the argument, it's resonating with people. So, in answer to the original question, Andy Burnham could very possibly be the MP for Macclesfield. I hope not, and I would do everything in my power to hope that doesn't to make sure that doesn't happen. But if he is, he'll be parachuted in as leader of the Labour Party, and they've got a better chance at the next election. There's no two ways about it if that happens. So I want Keir to stay in place. In answer to your to the question, there you go. That was quite long-winded, wasn't it?
Yeah,
sorry.
No, but it was good information.
Okay.
All that talking, Lois, must make you thirsty, and hosting the show makes me thirsty. So let's have a drink together. There we go.
Cheers. Bottoms up.
Yeah, I didn't want to be all alone.
Not fair. Why do I have to host? All right.
Yeah, nobody should ever drink alone. So I'm just trying to help out Lois.
I love it. I'm the resident. No. I'm the resident drunk. It's fine.
All right. Okay, so from David Maddox, who says, for Lois, do you have any idea what the amount is of subsidies that the Drax power plant receives?
Oh, look, I don't have exact figures to hand, but just to say to your viewer, it is off the Richter scale extraordinary, because what's happened is they've managed to classify the Drax power plant, which is obviously wood chips from you guys across the Atlantic Ocean in ships using diesel. I mean, it's so ludicrous, it's unbelievable. They've managed to classify the Drax power plant as a net zero power plant. It would not surprise me if it could be anywhere up to between 20 and 45%. If not more, in terms of subsidies.
Wow. All right. Yeah, and we had another question about Drax as well, who was, where did that go? Robin was asking, how do we stop the environmental nuts from sending redwood ash pellets to Drax 8,000 miles away? Yeah, I don't know. They have to stop burning wood pellets and we'll stop selling it to them, I guess.
Well, if you've got idiots with government's money coming to you saying, hey, we want to buy your wood pellets and we want to give you X amount for it, of course anyone in their right mind is going to sell them. It's not about that. That's just called business. That's capitalism. But if you've got idiots using my money, and the United Kingdom taxpayers' money to do it, then that's the issue. The issue is on our side. But don't worry, we're on it.
You know, I've always thought Drax sounded like some sort of a supervillain. What's up
Yeah,
with that name
yes,
anyway?
definitely.
Drax is the name of a character from Guardians of the Galaxy, so there's that.
Oh my God! See, she knows everything. There's nothing that this girl doesn't know.
Yeah, if you want like useless nerd knowledge, I am the one to go to. All
I,
right.
I doubt that very much. You're one of the cleverest women I've ever met. But yeah, but modesty is lovely. It's something that I don't have, and I admire it in others.
Chris Nisbet asks, how will we get to global socialism once the climate crisis is over? And I think the follow-up to that question is from Wheelman, actually. This is a good combo question, who says, are the microplastics and organic food push the next push by the cabal behind global warming? We've talked about it. Steve Malloy thinks that the microplastic stuff and the Anthony got a drink too. Man, I'm wild with jealousy right now. Sorry. Yeah. And it's already starting to kind of pick up. There's a huge push, like Lois pointed out earlier, about the water use in data centers. They're just trying to find ways to stop this stuff. And a lot of it comes from China, actually, that's stopping it. Because if we get a lot of our data processing figured out, and also if we get a lot of our manufacturing of chips and stuff figured out, then China is going to be in a little bit of trouble on that end. They love having that monopoly. It's sorry, I read a comment that just completely threw off my train of thought. But there are a lot of different angles that they're going to try. It's never going to be over. You know, there's going to be something new that they're going to come up with if the climate stuff doesn't work out with, that will require global restructuring towards a more socialistic economy in order to fix the problem, of course, because that's the solution to everything, right? So yeah, I would not at all be worried about it going away. They're going to come up with something. Yeah. So Bobby Berry has an important question, which is, Stella Artois, have you no taste?
It's what's in the fridge, man. I didn't put it there.
I thought you were having a go at me then. I was going to say, this is my man Shandon.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions I have about the beer fridge at the Heartland Institute offices. That I have no access to, which is not fair. All right.
The thing is, though, what it means is that we are not wasting our donors' money.
Yeah.
Isn't it? You know, so no one can complain. No one.
Albert says, all this drinking is making me thirsty. Above Us Only Sky says, releasing carbon dioxide bubbles into the atmosphere. Right here on the show. So very good, you guys. And then let's see. Wheelman wants to know how many coal plants have been demolished. I don't know how many have been fully demolished. We have probably thousands of coal plants in this country. Many of them have been shut down. I don't know what percentage of the approximate many have been permanently torn to pieces and scrapped. I actually doubt that it's all that many.
Here we go. I looked it up. Says here, between 2010 and 2019, more than 500 coal-fired power plants were retired in the United States, reducing the total count from 518 plants and 213 down to just 227 by 2023.
Yeah, the thing is, though, that the retirement isn't the same thing as demolishing. So a lot of these plants can be retired, but not completely taken apart, which is how we've been able to turn some of them back on, like how Germany turned some of theirs back on. Let's see. Can they put data centers in urban locations and use the excess heat for local housing? Anthony, do you think that sounds feasible?
Yes, I do, actually. So here's how it would work. There are some cities that are already wired for this. Ironically, many in Russia would benefit from this, because Russia has steam pipes that go throughout communities where they transmit heat from the power plant. So they could probably add the waste heat from the data centers to these already existing steam pipes and use that, for winter heating. So yeah, you could probably make use of it. It'd be kind of like geothermal in Iceland, where you're piping heat around to the different homes and so forth. It's a possibility. It would take some massive infrastructure changes, but you know how the left would be. They would freak out about it and come up with some reason not to do it.
All right. We have all of our viewers are now beginning to drink as well. So that's fun. Scott Clay asks, who is the designated driver today?
That's actually you, Linnea, because everybody else is drinking, including our producer, Andy.
And David says, are there any other rum drinkers here, or am I again?
Oh,
alone?
no, it's all my fault. I've corrupted America.
Yeah, I can see you're really broken up about it too. You're really.
I am. Yeah.
Right. I'm sure if my mom is watching the show, she's just cackling right now, just laughing off at this. All right, so we have a very good science question for Anthony, which is, what is the source of the El Nino heating? One scientist theorized it was volcanoes under the sea, but just off the top of my head, I'm skeptical of that theory. But Anthony, why does El Nino happen?
Well, it's not volcanoes under the sea. Nope, and hell nope. It is basically this. The trade winds change direction along the equators, and you end up with water being pushed back in one direction because of the change in the trade winds. It also causes the sea surface to roughen a little bit because it's more wavy and so forth. And it changes the amount of cold water upwelling. So these factors combine to create a bulge of warm water. It's just because the dynamics of the ocean circulation, both on the surface as well as below, have changed. And so this particular area starts retaining more solar radiation because of the change in the winds and the change in the upwelling. That's it. There's nothing else, nothing magic.
All right. Let's see. We have another question here. I'm going to take over for just a moment because Linnea is otherwise indisposed. We have a commenter on here says that if we pour crude oil over the Pacific Ocean and start fire tornadoes, we can destroy Godzilla. John 1Z1, you are now an unofficial contributor to the show, because that is called a callback, and that is fantastic. You combine two different topics into a funny joke. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I think the answer is yes, we could probably destroy Godzilla, but the question really is, but do you want to? Because I thought Godzilla was supposed to be the good monster. If we destroy Godzilla, then all the bad monsters will destroy us, I think, right? I think so. There's probably better Godzilla experts in the chat than I.
Yeah, I never liked Mothra.
Yeah, Mothra sucks. All right. Well, I disappeared for a moment because my jealousy got the better of me. And Lois, in the United States, it's actually not all that uncommon, especially in the South, to have a little glass of wine with lunch. So now we can all partake.
Yeah. Well, good. We got two wine drinkers, two beer drinkers, including Andy, and I'm drinking honey whiskey because I have been suffering from a cold for a week, and I got to tell you, this is great stuff for cough suppression. It goes, if you drink it neat, it goes down smooth, shuts down the cough, and shuts down the whole phlegm problem.
Brilliant.
Are you sure about that?
I hope you don't feel that I'm recolonizing. But in the South, that would have been the more traditional. That would have been the more English part. Is that right?
There were a lot of loyalists. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So our genes aren't that different.
All right. And you know what? Our audience is actually right. That honey whiskey actually is great for colds. That's true.
It would be, yeah. Honey and lemon, yeah.
There's a reason they put alcohol in cold medicine. All right.
What is that? What is the reason?
By the way, I want to say, since we haven't mentioned it yet, full disclosure, this particular episode is sponsored by Big Alcohol.
Otherwise known as Lois' apartment in North London.
the other gold, which is corn whiskey. All right. Wheelman says, I know this isn't about your show, but can you discuss whether Steve Hilton makes the California final election? Jim, you would be more up to date on this one than I would.
Well, actually, I've been paying such close attention to the LA mayor's race instead of the California governor race. I actually presume that the, let's just say the election irregularities post-election day don't seem to me to be not sufficient to knock Hilton out of the final two for the November election. Lots of these ballots that were just found had voted for LA mayor, but not California governor, which is not the way it usually goes. People usually vote if they're just kind of passive voters. They'll vote for the top of the ticket and ignore the stuff on the bottom. So yeah, I think Steve Hilton will probably make the final two. I still don't think that means he's going to be the governor of California. So we'll see. The reason why Steve Hilton, the reason they would want Steve Hilton off of the California ballot for the November election, and the reason they want Spencer Pratt off the ballot for the Los Angeles mayor election is because they don't want two non-leftists communicating to the public all summer long and into the fall about what a disaster leftist governance is in the state of California. If you have basically two hard leftists, running against each other, it's the same old. They can't even stomach people with different views talking about the issues all the way through the summer. So hopefully Steve Hilton will be able to hang on to second place. And so a real mediocre lightweight like Javier Becerra will have to actually answer questions in a debate from somebody who, even though he's a political neophyte, has much radically different views that are much more, frankly, American and not so much communist. And that would be a good conversation, not just for Californians, but I think the entire country to hear.
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes that we can still go here. We've got some nice compliments from the audience that we are funny. So thank you, David. We do think we're funny.
And funny peculiar or funny haha?
Probably a little bit of both. Scott says this has been a really fun show today. Hangovers tomorrow, but fun today. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we've got a terrific audience. And with regards to California, yeah, it would be really a miracle if they had a governor who wasn't like a hyper leftist win. But Jim, I noticed you didn't even really talk about Kamala Harris. Isn't that in the cards
for her in California?
Yeah,
she's not on the ballot in California.
Oh, I thought she was this year.
No.
We could probably get her on this show if we told her that we have alcohol.
Well, if we could get Big Booze as a sponsor, we can bribe a lot of people to come on this show.
I hope you're not inferring that women are easily led by booze.
Would never say that.
I was at a Big Oil Dr. Evil meeting last year, and someone had floated the idea that perhaps Kamala Harris would run for governor. I was at a meeting. It was like a conference for California oil and gas producers. And when someone suggested that, just kind of passively on a discussion panel, everyone in the room cried out and groaned. Everyone was like, "Please, no." So I think that's what.
They've not got anyone better. I mean, surely there must be people that are better than that on the left. They must have somebody, surely.
Well, probably Tom Steyer, but it would really be something if an actual billionaire got elected in California after all of the hemming and hawing that they've been having about the uber rich recently.
Yeah,
but I I do want to point out, though, you guys, it's good that we're having this fun episode here where we are drinking on stream, because there won't be a show next week. Next week is the 19th. Yep.
That's right. It's a holiday.
What happened from the 19th?
We have a holiday called Juneteenth, a federal holiday.
And what does that mean?
Don't ask me. I don't think any.
But does it commemorate something or celebrate?
It's emancipation. The signing of the Emancipation Proclamation.
It's not, though.
No.
Juneteenth is not the Emancipation
But
Day.
is it the emancipation of black people or women?
Enslaved people.
Sorry, I meant in terms of being given the vote. Sorry, I wasn't.
No, we don't have a federal holiday for that one. But we have Juneteenth is a holiday that used to be celebrated exclusively by people in Galveston, Texas, because
That's
it was
very
the
specific.
day, because it was the day that apparently they found out that the Emancipation Proclamation, an official emancipation, happened. So it's always been my contention that we should have an Emancipation Day holiday, like in February or whenever it was that the actual event occurred. But for some reason, this is the one that's stuck. So,
can I just ask? Sorry, I know we're coming to the end of the show, but I'm going to be a bit boring for a minute. So do you have? So obviously, when America had its independence from us or whatever, women didn't originally have the right to vote, did they? Or did they? No. So when did that happen?
I honestly don't remember when that amendment was added.
So no, I'm just wondering if there's a celebration about women's emancipation in terms of their being able to vote. Is there a celebration for that? There's not.
No.
No. Well, then that makes me a little bit pissed off.
Yeah. No, it's that would be. I'm sure. I wouldn't. I mean, I'm never going to complain about adding more holidays to the calendar, but we've already got a lot of them, so I don't think they're going to add any more. But yes, and also Father's Day is on June 21st, although that's not a federal holiday. It's a corporate holiday, but still. Happy upcoming Father's Day. I'm going to hand it back to Jim because I don't have any more questions from the audience. People were having a great time, although I will read real quick from Mars Rock, who says, the alarmists are going to point to this episode and declare climate deniers to be unreliable drunks. Yeah, probably.
No, that is very unfair. We are very much reliable drunks here in the climate realism in space.
Oh no, I'm going to get told. I know that James and Jim are going to tell me off again.
We're going to be in big trouble. Yeah. Well,
sorry.
We've been in so much trouble since I joined you here. So
yeah.
So
what about that? But you can use the argument that it's cultural because I'm English.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that hasn't worked in the past, but we'll try again. And well, thank you. And cheers to everybody in our audience who hangs out with us every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the Climate Realism Show to talk about climate realism and to be the counter spin to a lot of the BS that you see in the news all over the world every single day. I want to thank our streaming partners, Junk Science, CFACT, CO2 Coalition, Climate Depot, What's Up With That, and Heartland UK Europe. Thank you so much to the lovely Lois Perry, who is a very bad influence on all of us here in the United States.
Oh no, sorry.
Very good influence over there in the UK. Thank you, Anthony Watts, who was with us today despite not feeling really well all week. Thank you, Linnea, who had to endure not having an alcoholic beverage for about 15 minutes and could barely take it. And again, thank you to everyone in our fantastic audience. Please help us out by sharing this show with as many people as possible. And I guess we're not going to see you next week, but we will see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.